Good evening everybody. This is the Winform Video Racing Seminar Part 1. This is 2019 and we're going to go through some of our database analysis of what's happening in racing these days. Okay, so let's move along. And what we can see is firstly Winform fundamentals. We created Winform ratings way back in 1970. And that was on the basis that the time run was fundamental along with barrier position adjustment, weight adjustment, time adjustment for wet tracks, time adjustment for distance changes, time adjustment between various tracks. In other words, we tried to work out what a horse could do on various track surfaces and over various distances, how we could adjust the weights correctly and so on, because it certainly needed a lot of doing. So, nobody else used time ratings until after the publication of Racing Pays in 1988. I wrote that book. It told everybody how to produce your own Winform ratings adjustments. There are other people followed the Winform weight adjustments after being revealed in that book. The computerization of form and analysis was the key to the future of form analysis. That happened in the late 80s, and then in the 90s we had a hell of a lot of price competition between bookmakers, so it made it pretty tough to try and do the thing. Now, one of the things you've got to do is examine your conscience, as you must, and you have to decide what sort of punter are you, because it really doesn't matter what sort of punter you are, the same fundamentals apply. So, are you a $5, $10, $20 punter, $50 or $100 a bet, or do they call you Mr. Millions? You want some examples? What about how much will you bet in a year? The importance of ROI, or return on your investment. Don't get hung up on percentages. It's what's left in your pocket that counts. So you don't have to worry about saying, oh, I want to make 20% on turnover, I want to make 30%, I want to double my bank, whatever. And this will give you an idea. What's more important? Having a bank of $20,000 making $13,989 for the year, or a turnover of $250,000, which is $5,000 a week, making the same amount. What you've got to understand is, with a bank of $20,000, you will have no trouble having $250,000 worth of bets for the year. But if you were to look around and say, hang on, I've got a bank of $20,000, there's no way I bet $250,000. Rubbish. Of course you do. On the other hand, if you've got a $2,000 bank, you could turn over $25,000 a year very easily without having to get any more money. So how do we manage that? So we there are forums available around, and this is where you should be telling people about your punting experiences and what you hope to learn. What we're hoping to show you in this video seminar is everything you need to know to be able to profit from punting, including how to second guess the market, and basic staking principles that are the backbone of successful punting. We can start by saying, how can you win with favourites? Okay, everybody knows how many often favourites win. For example, you've got to understand the market. The favourites 5 years up until 2005 only won 30% of the races, an average price of $2.80. That was regardless of whether it was with the bookmakers or whether it was the tab. There were limited opportunities back then, okay? And on average, you would lose something like 12.3% if you backed every favourite. What's happened since then? Over the past 5 years, 32% of favourites are winning, so more favourites are winning, but the amount of money you get on average is $3.05, so you're only losing 2.7%. How hard, or how can you make it so that you're maybe not going to increase the number of winners you back? How can you get a bigger dividend than that? So, for example, favourites that are in the top 2 Winform rated horses, so that's our ratings. If one of those two is favourite, 38% of them win. So straight away your percentage has gone up. Okay. Horses that are first starter favourites, in other words, horses that never had a start before, if they're favourite, the only reason they're going to be favourite is because the connections of that horse know about their ability. The only way you can find out about their ability, especially in Victoria, for example, where they don't have to have a public barrier trial, they win 34% of races. So once again, that's 2% more wins, and you're still going to get around the same average dividend. Now we can talk about the favourites that lose the most money. Okay. API, now that's the average prize money. Okay, the average prize money that they've won. The ones that are first or second ranked in the market, the ones that have earned the most prize money per start, when they're favourite, they lose money. If the going is worse than a good 4, or you might go down to soft 5, which is the old dead, okay? If it's worse than that, favourites start losing money all of a sudden because their strike rate goes down. Here's another strange thing. The worse the barrier, the better the price. So the wider drawn at the barrier, the less likely people are to back horses. However, when they're the favourite in spite of drawing a bad barrier, those horses win buckets, and they're the ones you need to be on. The other one is you don't back horses that are worn out. You stick to horses early on in their preparation. So that's when you're going to make the money. When the horse comes back, has a couple of runs, it's improving, and then it becomes favourite. That's because they can see the improvement in the horse. Okay, they're the horses that mostly are the ones that win. Now, here's a little bit of a story on understanding statistics. There are traps, for example, in analysing databases. When we see the statistics, are they the result of what happened, or what really happened? You've got to question that. Was the favourite in that race the favourite because there was a late scratching, and that's why it's favourite? So, in other words, the favourite was scratched, so the horse that is now the favourite was not really the favourite. Okie doke. So, you've got to sort of bear in mind that that sort of thing gets into the statistics. Was the favourite really the favourite at the time you would have placed your bet? So if you're placing the bet in the morning on what you think is the favourite, actually 20 to 30% of the time that horse is not favourite when the race jumps. So what you've got to do, you've got to be on the ball and watching a few minutes before the race to determine which horse is actually the favourite. What's the final price of the favourite? Has it opened short, eased and then firmed? Okay, so for example, it might open at $1.90 because they think, okay, this might be a good thing, it's going to be backed. And then they find, well, hang on, nobody wants to take that price, so the bookmakers will ease it out. It might go out as much as $2.50, and everybody says, now, that's a good price, and then it firmed and ends up starting favourite, okay? So that's a good horse to be on, okay? And you'll know that. What happens, it comes up and they open it up at say $2.20 or $2.50 or something like that, and all of a sudden it gets backed in. Okay, so we know that's a pretty fair dinkum indication. C, did the price only firm because the commentators on Sky Channel spooked it? In other words, the money's already on the horse, and then all of a sudden everybody on Sky Channel says back this horse because it's a short price. Forget about it. Everybody's already got their money on it, the good price, you've missed out. So by the time you see it, and you're backing it at a shorter price than it should be, and even if it wins, on average, you're not going to win on those horses. Last question is, did it ease in the market and still win? Now, that happens approximately 30% of the time. So that can be one that will fight you, and that's where, for example, you get a horse and you're convinced that it's got the form to win. It eases in the market. We don't know what the reason is, but you might say to yourself, hang on, no, I think it can win. Get on and try and get on with somebody who offers you a starting price guarantee. In other words, say you take the price at $3 and it eases out and starts at $3.50. They pay you the $3.50. Bet365 do this, for example. So you've got to decide what's the answer. Okay, now if we're talking about false favourites here are some indications. Some horses are favourite purely because of their statistics. In other words, were they a last start winner? People automatically put that in as favourite, but then you've got to ask yourself, is it up in class? Most punters have absolutely no idea what that is. Did it have a high average prize money from running in a higher prize money, but not a class race? So, for example, some of those races which are limited to horses that were purchased at particular sales, they might win a $500,000 race, or they might win a Heat of the Country Championship or something like that, so there's high prize money there, whereas normally they'd be running for $40,000. Okie doke, so it forces their average prize money up. It doesn't necessarily make them a better horse because they've been in one of these restricted races. Has it been a be on me next time runner? So the public gets confused with these. So for example, what happens when the horse is finishing on and everybody sees that, of course. Oh, look, it was 10th at the turn and it only got beaten a length. Okay, everybody wants to be on it next time, but hang on. The best horse in that race was the one that actually won the race, wasn't it? It's won by a length. Okay, so It didn't look like it had a fantastic run or anything like that. It was just up there and it managed to persist and win. Whereas the other horse coming from behind, it wasn't fast enough, otherwise it would win. You should have been on at that time, not the next time. We talk about winning favourites. Avoid slow 6, 7 or heavy going. Stick to maidens or open class. These are the easiest races to work the form. The thing is, in the maidens, they're either going to win or they aren't going to win. If they don't win after a few starts, they're generally not going to. In open class, they're easy to work with because all of the horses in that race have got form. Horses running in barrier 6 or out, you'll always get a better price. If the average prize money index is 3 or more, what I'm saying is they're the 3rd ranked, the 4th ranked, 5th ranked, etc. Those horses, when they win, will pay you a bigger dividend. Horses that are in the top 4 Winform ratings, and for example, you can buy the races on Saturday for the top 5. It costs you $40 for all the races on Saturday. You'll get that sent out to you on a Thursday. The horses that are rated 1, 2, 3 or 4 by Winform, if they're in that position, okay, then they're more likely to win than the others. And once they've got over 30 career starts, it gets much harder for a horse to win. Either they've established what they can do and are still doing it, or maybe they've had 4 or 5 wins and from that point on they're getting older, takes longer for them to get fit and so on. And the ideal thing is no more than 3 runs from a spell, unless you're running in some of those major races. You know, you might be running in a longer race, so 1,600 metres or more. Okay, they may need more running to get themselves fit. So the results to write home about. The horses we're left with are favourites in spite of the relatively adverse statistics. They've got a poor barrier draw, they've got a low prize money rank. The positives is this: they're fresh horse, high in the Winform rank. Long term, you'll get 35% wins, 11% profit on turnover. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Our highest subscription is for Winform Gold Club, where we analyse all the group races and so on. For our Winform Gold members, we earn selections in group and listed races, or black type they are. This ensures we're on horses that are usually set for these prestigious races. Owners and trainers are looking for the prize money, the reputation for the breeders and owners, and of course to get rich. So first of all, we don't bet on heavy tracks. Field sizes, we're looking 7 to 18. We're looking at 1,100 metres and up. We're looking age 2 to 4. These horses are all young, they're fit, they're not getting old like most of us. Up to 6 runs from a spell in these listed and group races. Distance change is easy, minus 15% to plus 33% on last time. They're a top 2 Winform selection. Up to 17 starts maybe. We restrict the number of starts for these. And the qualifying run, that's the run we've chosen, up to -1 length. In other words, beaten no more than a length in what we consider their qualifying run. So when we put the dividends in on good tracks, we've got these 22% strike rate at $4.38 on dead tracks, which is good 4 or soft 5. 32% strike rate, average $4.52, and you've got big numbers here. On a slow track, we have made 83% profit on turnover. We're talking like soft 6 or 7. All up, 32% winners, an average price of $4.68. So there's no problem with that. You'll win on that. Now, less than $200 a bet usually over the last 6 years. And so far this year, 26 bets, mainly through the carnival, and we've still made a profit. Just beware. You can't win every day. This year so far we've had 31% wins and 13% profit. There is nothing wrong with that. I can tell you how the governments thrift off the punters and still do, but we'll save that for another day. Because they did all this nonsense and they've got race field levies, which they've got now. Some states they take out 10% of the money and just keep it. These are the stats for the last 97,000 favourites to run. 31,072 winners, average of $2.88, better of starting price or the best tape. Good tracks 32.5%, average price $3.03. Isn't that a better price? The dead tracks, we covered some of this before, and favourites with API rank 3+, 29% wins, average $3.45. Much better deal. Barrier 6 plus first, second or third up. Career starts up to 30 or first starter favourite. Fields are 7 to 14, open or maidens only. It's a good way to make money. Tightening up of markets, something we can't do about that, but the trend is towards a sharpening of the market. Try and find the right blend of form and ratings. Select and back the runners that fit the profile. There are few horses of these are under the radar. That's the end of part 1. We're going to do more next week. In the meantime, you can order if you wish. The top 5, you must get your order in on Thursday evening, and you get the top 5 for all the races this weekend on Saturday, and you can start applying some of those principles. Keep the link for this video, and you can save it on your desktop or whatever, and you can go back to it and go over the points again. In the meantime, thanks for listening.